Hey Sainers, welcome to Saints TV. I thought I'd do my live preview for the Hawks game tonight. Felt like a good time to do it. I just finished watching the Collingwood and Essendon game, which was very surprising. Very odd result. Collingwood seemed to have turned the corner with Buckley, and Essendon seemed to be as inconsistent as we have been, which is good because it means that those sort of teams that everyone said have gone past us aren't going to be getting away from us at this point in the season. Essendon are dropping games, Melbourne are dropping games, the Bulldogs are dropping games. There's all these teams that supposedly are in and around us that should be going past us by, the experts in the Herald Sun and on Fox Footy, but so far they've kind of been losing games and we've kind of stayed thereabouts, which is good. I think Collingwood went from 13th to 5th, and that's a good sign for us that if we can perform on the weekend against the Hawks, which I'll be talking about, that we might be able to climb a few spaces on the ladder. And Melbourne, particularly last night, were terrible, and Essendon again just showed how inconsistent and how crazy and random the season has been. I will be flying up to Tassie, which is awesome news. I organised some tickets with some footy friends of mine, and they were kind enough to let me tag along with them. And we're flying up after I play football on Saturday to Launceston, and then going to the game and staying a night in Launceston, and then coming back early the next morning. So I haven't actually been to a game interstate ever. It's going to be my first big interstate trip outside of going to Geelong. The rest have been MCG Etihad, so it's going to be weird seeing us play in a stadium that I've never been to, which is something that I want to do more of this year. I think in a couple of weeks we go and play Fremantle, I think, in Perth, or West Coast in Perth, one of the two teams in Perth. So I want to go to that game, and then I think a couple of weeks after that we've got Perth again, and then Gold Coast and Adelaide and all these other teams that I've never seen interstate. So I want to do that. But I wanted to talk about Saturday night and even, the lineups and what could potentially happen tomorrow when we announce the team. Robertson is definitely not going to be an in, despite what a lot of people have been asking me and asking other people. Is he fit? No, they've got to do more tests. He's not going to be rushed back anytime soon, especially for an interstate game, especially against Hawthorn, who are probably going to come out very tough after their disappointing loss to North Melbourne. That's another interesting thing, is that when we lost to North and we lost badly, everyone was saying, wow, St Kilda is so shit. North are the worst team in the league. And then North go on a bit of a run and beat Carlton comprehensively, and then they go and beat Hawthorn, and they're 10 goals up against Hawthorn at half-time. They only beat us in the last quarter and kicked 7 goals to nothing, but they were 60-something points up at half-time. And then suddenly all the commentary last week was about Hawthorn making a comeback and how great Hawthorn played in the last quarter despite them losing by nearly 40 points. And I was telling my friend that the media clearly have something out for us, because if the same thing happened to us, we would just be hammered in the papers, hammered in the press, on Fox Footy, with all the special commentary, all the experts out there would be saying, and they did, they said how bad we've been, how they can't see us improving. But with Hawthorn, they get 4 or 5 goals closer, and they're talking about how great Hawthorn played. And I feel like you can't win. Like, if that was us and we were 10 goals down at half-time, they'd be just writing us off instantly. But because it's Hawthorn, or a bigger Melbourne club, or a club that's had success recently and won a couple of flags, that, they can kind of let them off the hook. Yes, I do have, I'm not home at the moment. My parents' place, just visiting and watching the game with them, public holiday and all, so good to catch up with them. But they've got some Nick Galsano and Nick Rewalt framed stuff behind, which they clearly haven't found a spot to put it, but I might try and steal it at some point and take it home and use it as backdrop stuff for these videos. But I thought, why not go through some of the head-to-heads and some of the stats on the teams and how we're going. So I've got a few tabs up. They're currently 7th on the ladder. We're 15th, but again, it's a very quick jump from 15th to, say, mid-table, going, to the bottom half of the 8. They've had 3 wins. We've had 1. Their percentage is 114, and that's probably thanks to their big win against Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, which was them at their best, and then the week after was them at their worst. So they're inconsistent, so we've still got to be switched on, but they're not unbeatable like they used to be. So we can go in full of confidence, especially knowing that We played them last year at that venue and played them really well. And that got our season going last year. I thought where was I at the time? I was in Canberra at the time, so I didn't get to see the game live, but I watched it at the pub and we just dominated them. We were just running all over them. So hopefully we can take confidence from that going into this game. I don't think that we're going to have many changes, to be honest. I think Nunes is probably going to be a likely out just because of concussion and the fact that he hasn't been in great form anyway. And I've been kind of saying that I wanted him out. Not for anything against him, but just his form. And we've dropped players that have been out of form, and then we've brought them back in when they've earned their spot again. So I feel like he's no exception. He's got to earn his spot. And there's players in Sandy that are playing well, like Rice. He's the big one. Even Jimmy Webster, people forget he's been out. Jimmy Webster's a player that can come back in. So there's David Armitage even in the midfield. So there's different types of players that we can look to. Josh Battle, that announcement, I think he signed for another 2 years during the week. Was that a sign that we're going to maybe drop a Membry? He looks like he's still about, out of sorts, maybe not completely match fit to go to Tassie. Could we bring him in and mix it up? Marshall is another one that can come back in. But again, I don't know how that's going to work. Hickey's been excellent in his 2 games back, and it looks like he's taken so much on board after we dropped him for Billy Longer, but he's really come back and made a couple of statements in both a loss and a really good performance in the draw against GWS. Let's keep going back to these stats. Disposals, we've got more disposals, 362 to 385 on average. They've got more clearances, more inside 50s, more contested possessions, more tackles, hitouts, and free kicks. Free kicks, not surprising considering, Puopolo and all these players that they, do the old shoulder duck and they get the high tackles. The AFL have put out their preview. And they've basically said, I'm just going to skip to where they say the prediction, Hawthorn by 10 points. The Saints ran rings around Hawks midfielder Jaeger Mura in the corresponding game last year, after which it emerged that he had injured his knee once again and he didn't play for nearly 4 months. He'll be keen to make amends this time around. That's a stupid statement. I feel like he's not going to care that. He's not going to remember that. He's just going to go and play his game. And the same with us. I don't think we're going to think, oh, he was injured last year, we better be on our game this time because he's going to make a statement. That's just stupid. Last 5 meetings, Saints 130 to 55 winners, Hawthorn 87, defeated St Kilda 84. We know that game when the umps just completely screwed us, and that was in Tassie, and that's when Paddy took that big grab late in the game. Hawthorn 132, St Kilda 69. We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about the next one, 175 to 30. I didn't go to that game either. I feel like I'm missing all the games that I'm luckily enough that we didn't perform in. So I seem to be going to some of the better games against Hawthorn. Hawthorn 102 defeated St Kilda 56. So we've not had a great overall record. There was a draw in there, I think, just before that. Later in 2011, I think it was, when McAvoy kicked a goal at the ruck late in the game. But we've slowly been getting back into the games. We should have beaten them when we lost by 3 points, and then we smashed them the next time after that. 6 points from the AFL. The Saints blew away the Hawks in the second half when they met in 2017, kicking 13 goals to 5, including an 8-goal third term. Jack Stephen was best on ground with 36 disposals, 8 tackles, and 5 inside 50s. He looked back in form last week, the first time where I was watching from the stands and thought, wow, he actually doesn't look injured, because he was hobbling terribly in Geelong when I was watching him live, and he looked way fitter, and he just took the game on, and you guys would have seen, like, he took at least 10 running bounces, which we haven't seen from him this season. But it looks like those sort of players are starting to get back into the swing of things. Not in the Saints' favour is they're kicking for goal this season. They're 17th ranked team for accuracy, operating at just over 39%. That's just shit. And they've kicked just 45 goals, putting them basically the lowest scoring team in the league at the moment. Although I saw on Channel 7 they were saying that overall as a league, on average, the goals per game has dropped significantly this season, which I have picked up on. Like, even this Anzac Day was like 30 to 60 at three-quarter time in perfect conditions at the MCG. So it's not just us. Big advantage for the Saints could be in the clearances, where they're ranked well ahead of the Hawks. Surprisingly, they've got O'Meara, Tom Mitchell, and all those players that they talk about, but we're ahead of them. We average 32 per game, though in centre clearances, they've struggled, ranked in the bottom 4 with an average of 10. So around the ground, we've been good. It's centre clearances which have been hurting, but it's going to be interesting to see how that changes with Hickey back in. And was that mainly to do with Longa's terrible form in the first 4 weeks? And can Hickey change that and completely flip that around? Because I thought we were better in the centre last week with him in the ruck. This is the Hawks' first match in Launceston this season after they won 2 of 4 games with 1 draw there in 2017. The Saints are no strangers with 11 games for 6 wins, so not a bad record. St Kilda continues to be the highest-ranked uncontested team in 2018, averaging 254 per game, but they're second last in contested. Hawthorn is mid-table in both. That is a bit of an annoying one. It seems that basically says, it screams that we're just an outside team. We don't want to get in and get the ball. Last week, we wanted to get in and get the ball, and I watched the replay the other day, and you see it differently, live to TV, but we really did constantly put pressure on GWS for just the whole 120 minutes. So hopefully we can bring that again against Hawthorn. And St Kilda's Nick Caulfield is listed at number 606 in the Chic AFL player ratings. He's ranked 15th among all first-year players. I mean, I don't need to say too much about this guy, but far out, he's been amazing since he's come in. I think he's only played 3 games. He's still 18. He looks like he's played 100 or so games, and that he's really confident with his football and his decision-making. I think that's the number one thing that we've all noticed is how good his decision-making is. And for a first-year player, like you see some of the top draft picks. I mean, he was pick 8, so he's top 10. But you see the number 1 and 2 draft picks coming in, and they struggle to pick up the game. And he's playing in a really tricky position. He's not just a full forward and waiting for the ball to come to him like a Paddy is, but he's like thrown into half-back. He's on the wing. He's playing on some tough players, but he's making it his own. And he had 11 marks last week, and he had 4 contested marks and about 5 intercept marks from half-back. So, I mean, he's a big build. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's almost Blake Acres size. So potentially we could see him moving into the midfield a bit more later in the season when he builds up his confidence in that position. I'm just going to go through some of your comments. I've kind of neglected that, but I feel like I need to. This is a big part of why I like to do the live streams, just to get the back and forth dialogue. Great place, Tassie. Yes, I've been there a few times, but not for football. So it's going to be good to just go for football and then come home. I've been watching Ed Phillips in the VFL. He's flying. He is flying. He's looking very good. I think he will debut soon. I've heard rumours that this week could be a week for him, depending on how Jack Nunes and a few other blokes turn up. But I don't think we'll have too many changes, and I don't want us to make too many changes this week. We should go in pretty settled. We were quite settled last week in balance of talls to smalls, so I don't want to mix that up too much. But I think he definitely deserves a shout. Whether he makes the emergencies or even sneaks in for a debut, I don't know, but his form's not going to hurt him. So another week it's sandy and dominating. It's not going to hurt his chances of making a debut. Webster should be right playing after being injured. Yep, 100%. Thoughts on Gresham? He always does little things that are like, oh, well, that was really good. That was nice to see. But he doesn't do them consistently, and we don't put him in the midfield enough to get high possession. So he's always hovering around that 10 to 15 possession mark. Last week he didn't look himself in that he got the ball close to goal, and the first thing he did was try to handball it away, and he didn't try to snap it over his shoulder or do a miraculous sort of fake and then kick a goal like he does when he's at his full confidence. So I feel like it's very similar to Jack Billings in that he's got the skill, he's probably going to stay in the team, and he will turn the corner at some point. And we've seen Seb Ross do it, Luke Dunstan do it, Jack Stephen last week. We've seen a lot of players do it in the last couple of weeks that have been out of form, so it's only a matter of time until players like them start picking up their form. No Poppy or no Cyril. That's 100% a big thing for us. I mean, I think we are often troubled more so with smalls in teams than talls, especially now with Nathan Brown. He kept, who did he play on? He played on Patton last week, and I think Patton only kicked 1, and it was a free kick or just a mark late in the game. And then he played on Hawkins, who I think the same 1 goal or less. So he's taking the big beasts and he's doing a bloody good job on them. And Carlisle's doing the rebounding with Robert and Geary and those likes. And actually Brandon White. Brandon White was fantastic last week. So we can't ignore how good he's been and how handy it is to have him as a versatile tall and a small in the team. But with no Cyril and no Puopolo, particularly Cyril, who earlier in the season was getting 5 touches but setting up 4 goals. That's a huge difference when he's out of the team. Does Armitage get the call-up, Tyler asks. No, I don't think so. I think our midfield looks settled. We have enough inside with Dunstan, Steele. Now with Weller can come back into it. Seb Ross. You've got enough inside skill there. We don't need another one. And who are you going to take out? There's no midfielder from last week that deserves to come out of the team unless it's for Jack Nunes, but I don't think that would be a like for like. I would rather a Bailey Rice at half-back or a good winger to come in like a Phillips. Saints have a big following in Tasmania. Could help if they turn out to watch the game. That would be nice. It's you see this, this MCG packed today with 91,000 on a Anzac Day. Collingwood, Exeter going in both in good form, so that always helps with the attendance turnout. But it would be good to get over 20,000 to a game soon. So hopefully our form picks up, but obviously a lot of it has to do with, the support in the last 10 minutes last week. It felt like it was 30,000, 40,000 at the game at Etihad. For me, it was loud. So we want to get more out of that. We want to get louder. We want to get more turnout and outnumber our opposition, especially when it's, GWS and Adelaide. We don't want to have more away fans than home fans. It's just embarrassing. Large ground would definitely suit Phillips. Yes, definitely would. Who goes to Mitchell? I've had this chat with a few friends. Mitchell, I would love to see Seb Ross go to Mitchell. Good question, Eddie. I think Seb Ross, he's done a few big jobs on some big names last season. He went head-to-head with Danger. He's gone head-to-head with Cochin. I think he went head-to-head with Dusty at some point last year too and did a really good job. So I'd love to see him go head-to-head with Mitchell. If he wants to... If that doesn't go that same way, obviously Steele can do a really good tagging job as well. But I think Seb Ross, to make Mitchell more accountable. Steele, I don't think would hurt Mitchell as much, but I think going the other way, I think Ross with his kicking ability and his endurance could do really well on a Mitchell. Loving your work, mate. Thanks, Phil. Very kind of you. When will Billings go into the middle, having limited impact at half forward? Yeah, that's something that a lot of people have asked me. When are we going to put him into the midfield, particularly when he's been sitting on a half forward flank? He's not getting disposals, and you see a lot of teams when their forwards aren't doing well, they need to get them into the game, like a Jakey Stringer. Sometimes the Bombers do it, put him into the middle. I feel like Billings in the centre with a Blake Acres, that's another player. We don't put him in the centre enough. He's a big body. He likes to get the ball. And I've said this all season. I want to see him first bounce on Saturday night. I want to see him in the middle, and I want to see him get that ball and smash through some Hawks players. But Billings, I think, he's so deadly around goal, although he just doesn't kick straight. But you see his snap last week. He is class around the goals when he has limited time to think. When players have to think more about it than they have to, they can't execute. Billings seems to be that sort of guy, but he's so clever in the little kicks inside 50 that him in the middle of the ground would be really good, because that's something we've lacked, is lowering the eyes and lacing a teammate out. So I think him kicking it to a Paddy as opposed to someone else kicking it to a Billings in the forward line could be more effective. The first Anzac game ever we participated, and the common theme in the paper the next day was St Kilda does everything right but score infringement of goal. I think I feel a bit of deja vu. Thoughts? I can't really understand what you're trying to say there. Maybe retype that using better English, maybe. In front of goals. Okay. Go Saints, go Saints. Agreed, Acres a beast. Off topic, number one free agent we go for at season's end. I don't really know who the free agents are off the top of my head. I think an Ollie Wines is someone we've been very keen to look into from Port Adelaide. He's not exactly an outside sort of superstar, but he's a very, very good player. He was one of their best in their loss to Geelong last week. Also, I think, and I saw him live last week, but Shield. Is it Dylan Shield or Dylan Shields? Shield. Is a very good player, and he's pure outside. He's so classy. His goal against us was ridiculous last week when he sold the candy, kicked it on his left foot on the wrong side and drilled it. He looks he's just so perfect on the ball. Like, you don't see players that get it. He doesn't make a mistake. He doesn't get tackled. He's fast. He's young. He can mark and kick goals. If he's a free agent, I think we should throw the kitchen sink at him. Shield is a freaking superstar. And if you saw him in Saints colours, you would just freak. Like, he's such a good player. And he was one of the reasons why they almost beat us last week, because his delivery to the forwards was very good. And despite it being kind of a uglier game at times last week, when he got the ball, he was clean and it hurt us. And I'd love to have him in our colours. Sloan, I wouldn't go for Sloan. He's 28 or 29. He's still kind of more inside than outside like we've been wanting. So I don't think Sloan at all. A Fife would have been a better one. He's like 25, 26. He's younger than Sloan, as good on the inside and outside as Sloan. So I wouldn't go Sloan. Tom Lynch, as in Tom Lynch from Adelaide. the one that we actually gave away, or Tom Lynch's in Gold Coast. I don't think we're going to go for a forward unless we had got rid of Paddy in the off-season to Geelong or someone, but we've re-signed Paddy. We've got Bruce and Membry. We've got Josh Battle. Even Marshall can play forward. I don't think we're going to go for a forward. I know it's ahead of time, but trade targets for next year. We've just talked about that. A Shield or Ollie Wines. Not a Sloan. I wouldn't go Sloan. I think he's too old and his form's very good, but when you tag him, he just goes out of the game. And we need someone that can break the lines, and I don't think he breaks the lines. He would just be, a slight upgrade on a David Armitage, or not a slight upgrade, but he'd be a serious upgrade on Armitage or Seb Ross. But he's not at that. He's probably just hitting past his peak, to be honest. I don't think we should go for him. Do you feel we are playing good footy but can't convert? That was the story of our one and only Anzac Day game. I feel like last week we had 20 more inside 50s against GWS, 20 more. If you look at that on paper and you say, okay, this team's had 20 more inside 50s and it's their home game, what do you think the outcome is? I think 9 times out of 10 people say they won the game easily. And then you see the scores of draw. Efficiency-wise, we were 30%, GWS were like 65%. So it's just converting our chances, which was the issue last year. But if we can fix that up, I feel like we can be in a good position because we're not kicking goals, and it looks like we're the lowest scoring team, but I think in terms of getting the ball inside 50, we're getting it in a lot more than a lot of other teams. We just need to tinker with how we deliver it in there, and then we should be seeing a big turnover in goals. Shield's not big body, though. We've been too small for a decade. It's true. A big bloke would be good, like a Dusty or a Fife. That's a bit late now. Freeman finally back in the 2s next week. That's, very true. I hope he gets a chance. He said he'd be fit in the next 6 or 7 weeks from an interview that he had a couple of weeks ago. So, 4 or 5 weeks' time. Hopefully he's banging the door down and looking to come in because he's that outside sort of player that we've missed. And also, people early days when Collingwood got them, he's a top 10 draft pick. They likened him to Dangerfield, how he gets the ball and just bursts out with pace. I just want to see that. I mean, you just hear like myths of it, like, oh, is that actually real? And I just want to see him run out onto the field and show us what he can do. Do we have the money to try and get a big name to the club, Mark asks. I think so. I think we have the money. I mean, apparently we're in serious debt, but we have money, and the club has said that we've got money to sign players. I can't imagine a lot of our players currently being on big money, apart from Jake Carlisle and maybe Stephen. But apart from that, I feel like our wage structure would be quite low compared to Collingwood or an Essendon. So hopefully we're making savings there for a big signing. Where is Mav at? Played a rip last week. Is he a permanent fixture again soon? I hope so. I feel like he's the barometer. When he's on, we're on. And he was on last week. Like, he laid some massive tackles. He kicked a clutch goal, I think in the last quarter or third quarter, to keep us in the game. And he seems like a more senior head on the ground, and he helps the likes of Ben Long and even Billings and Gresham to get into the game. So he's definitely in this week. I was so happy with how he performed last week. I'm a big fan of him, and I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple of years ago in a Maddie's match, he kicked a goal on the run and the roof just blew off Etihad because we were coming back, and it was like 50,000 to that game, and he just showed a lot of passion, and he just gives a shit. And like Goddard today was yelling at Essendon players because they just played shit. He was having an argument with Danaher, and people are criticising Goddard, and I'm just saying, like, he looks like he cares. Like, he's trying to change something up so they can win. That's what I always liked about Goddard. He's competitive. You can't just not care when he's around. You have to care. And I think Mav's the same sort of bloke. Wasn't too sure of Ben Long before last week. I hope he backs it up. 100%. He was bloody good last week. Is Ben Dixon doing his job, or should he get hurt? Too early to tell. It often is a lot on the players. Maybe he's training them well and then they're just not executing what he's talking about on match day, but that's a behind-the-scenes thing. I might go to training. I mean, it's close enough now to me in St Kilda. I might just go to training and just have a look. I think I've kicked about 7 goals straight in South Yarra Footy Club this year. So maybe I could give him a shout and show him a thing or two. How good was Mav's tackle on Whitfield? That was 100% set the tone. Like I said, players like him are players that you want in the team come finals because they can smash a bloke. He could smash, maybe not a Dusty, but he could smash a very good player and set the tone for the team and make you feel taller and bigger. Like a Ben Long. He's not the biggest bloke, but when you run out with a Mav, you run out with a Luke Dunstan, you stand taller and you feel like, yeah, I'm going to tackle as hard as they do. And that's an example thing. He sets the tone for the team, but he sets an example and they all follow him. And that's, I think, what happened against GWS. We were just switched on from the start. I'm going to probably wrap this up, guys, but I'd love to hear your tips in your comments. Just tell me the margin and who's going to win. I'd love to see what you guys think. I actually think we're going to win. I haven't tipped us in a lot of these matches. I don't think I tipped us last week. I definitely didn't tip us against Geelong. Didn't tip us against Adelaide. Probably the only first 2 games of the year I tipped us. But I'm going to tip us by 19 points. I feel like we're getting to that point where we can be pretty comfortable that they're hopefully going to give us 110%. I might just quickly go through another couple of comments. Jack said, forward line not doing enough, mids working their gut out, and forwards aren't utilising their opportunities. Definitely true. St Kilda should be chasing a big forward. I don't think so. I feel like our forwards are just running to the same spot and we're bombing it to all of them. So Paddy's going up, Membry's going up, Bruce is going up, and even you see a Billings go up with the tall blokes. They all should be staying down. But it did like that the 50 did look more open last week with Paddy. Even that goal where he bumped Phil Davis and he turned and kicked it, that was something we haven't done, and we haven't had a Pagans-Paddock sort of look in a year or two. We haven't seen that forward line. So I like that. And apparently I heard that the players did talk to the coaches last week and said, let's ditch what we've been doing in terms of defending zones, which you guys know I absolutely hate the zone defending. But they actually said, let's go man-on-man. We want to play man-on-man, and we want to beat our individual man and then go forward. And I noticed that. We didn't zone. If any team that plays zone against GWS will get absolutely smashed. We didn't play zone. We played man-on-man, and all that means is that the ball's either going to, if you're not good enough, you're going to lose the contest. But if you're good enough, you bring the ball to ground or you win the ball back and you help your team propel and go forward. So I'm really liking that initiative from the players. It looks like we're not there to just, play shit week in, week out. The players care. And it looks like from what I've heard from inside the club, they've really put the foot down and they want to make changes. And the good thing is we saw changes last week, didn't we? We saw them play 4 quarters of really good football against a very, very, very good team who's going to be top 4 this year. So that's the good sign. Is it wasn't against a shitty team. We were very good. Let's quickly go through some tips. Phil says Saints by 20. Kim says Saints by 7. Mark says Saints by 6. Wendy, Saints by 15. Delivering sub 50 has been atrocious. Yes. Darren says Saints by 31. So everyone's feeling another draw. I really hope not. I've been to the grand final draw and I've been to this draw. 2 draws is enough. I'm sick of them, even though I've only had 2 in my life. But I'm going to call it there, guys. I've also put a video out recently, the AFL Evolution, where I play Hawthorn, and St. Nick makes a return because I forgot to take him out of the lineup. So if you want to see St. Nick kick a few goals and play in a win, I don't want to give too much away, but have a watch of that. That was posted, I think, yesterday, so check it out. And my next video will be hopefully post-game in Launceston after a victory, hopefully. And I might have a special guest who's also a Saints fan and runs his own AFL Facebook page and does a really good job with that. So I might have him on there and we can have a talk. So I'll leave it there, guys. But thanks very much for watching. Loving the comments. Keep them coming. Even though the video is going to stop now, I'll answer them when I can. And obviously stay tuned for post-game on Saturday night. Anyway, catch you guys. See ya.